Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I have an interesting video topic to talk about. This is Matt Gaetz, the former Republican representative and one-time nominee for Attorney General of the United States, is apparently flirting with a run for Florida governor, adding to a bit of chaos in the race according to a new NBC News article. So the article begins by saying that in the 2026 Florida governor's race, which has Republican Byron Donalds, who has already been endorsed by President Donald Trump, there are two other Republicans who could potentially be jumping into this race, including the wife of current Governor Ron DeSantis. Casey DeSantis is expressing interest in potentially running, but Matt Gaetz is also throwing his name into possibly running here. And the article goes over the fact that if DeSantis and Donalds were to run, they essentially would probably go at each other a lot, getting a lot of the attention and a lot of the atmosphere in the race, and that could cause a third-party candidate like Matt Gaetz to be able to run and maybe win the primary, getting about 30% of the vote, as the other two candidates go after each other and basically suck all the oxygen out of the room. And the article gives several quotes. One from a Florida Republican operative said, "Matt is always thinking. I could see him seeing a potential multi-way race, presenting him an opportunity to reemerge for a run." The article also mentioned that Matt Gaetz has hoping for a double endorsement of Donald Trump, endorsing Donald and Gaetz in this race, similar to what Trump did in the Arizona governor's race. The article mentions that a Trump operative said not to expect that to happen again, but Gaetz is seeing this potentially proxy war and competitive Republican primary of Donalds versus DeSantis if she decides to run as a potential opening for Matt Gaetz to run. Currently in the Republican primary, as I mentioned, Byron Donalds and Charles Burkett are the only Republicans currently declared. But Casey DeSantis has been speculated for weeks, could potentially be entering the race. Now Matt Gaetz' name, who has also been mentioned as a potential candidate, now it's really starting to heat up. This all depends really on what Casey DeSantis does. Because right now, if no other Republicans jump in the race, Byron Donalds is going to be the Republican nominee. The only Republican getting into the race that I think really gives a chance of Byron Donalds not winning this Republican primary would be Casey DeSantis, first lady of Governor Ron DeSantis of the state of Florida, first lady of Florida. The early polling that has been done so far has shown DeSantis either tied or even leading sometimes over Byron Donalds in a very close race. So Donalds versus DeSantis would be a very close matchup. And in some of these polls, it shows how Matt Gaetz polls. In the Targo's market research poll from back in May and back in April, it shows when they're running, DeSantis and Donalds both get around a high 20% range. Gaetz gets around 10%. So if Gaetz is hoping to be a third-party spoiler and be able to win while DeSantis and Donalds go at it, he's going to need to do a better job of consolidating support, getting a lot of these undecided voters, and getting support away from people like Jeanette Nunez, Wilton Sampson, and Francis Suarez, especially if they do not decide to run. This would be a very interesting move by Matt Gaetz because this could backfire on him a lot if he joins the race and President Trump does not endorse him, saying he's already endorsed Byron Donalds and will not be endorsing Matt Gaetz in this race. That could end up looking like a bad look for Gaetz, and then it would be basically just Donalds versus DeSantis versus Gaetz, but Gaetz would be on his own without any support from the president. If Donalds versus DeSantis does happen, it will be very interesting, and that's a wide open Republican primary. If Byron Donalds is running and Casey DeSantis rules out a bid, well then Matt Gaetz could potentially run against Byron Donalds as well, but the early polling shows Byron Donalds as such a favorite that it really wouldn't be too much of a contest for Donalds versus Gaetz. It shows that Donalds would have a very large lead over the rest of the field. And I can't stress that enough. The only Republican that has a chance at beating Byron Donalds in this Republican primary so far appears to be Casey DeSantis. And her decision on what she decides to do will have a very big impact on this Republican primary for the 2026 Florida governor's race. As for the rest of the election, the Democrats currently have 3 Democrats currently in the race. There's also an independent running, Jason Pizzo, who's a former Democrat, now independent. He is running. The lawyer, John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, has also expressed interest in running as well. But still, Cook Politico, Inside Elections, Sabra Crystal Ball have this race listed as solid Republican or safe Republican, and it's not really too much of a surprise. The only polling that's been done by Targo Market Research between Donalds, the Democrat, and the Independent shows actually a pretty competitive race. But when you look at the recent election results out of the state of Florida, Donald Trump won it in 2024 by 13 points. He won it in 2020 by only 3.4, so that was a massive jump of about 10 points from 4 years on the elections. But the governor's side of things, we saw Ron DeSantis win re-election in 2022 by 19.4% against Charlie Crist. The most recent Senate election also showed Rick Scott winning by 12.8%. So Florida is going to be a Republican state without a doubt in 2026. Right now, I just did a video on Alabama, but for the state of Florida, I would put the Florida governor's race honestly around a safe Republican margin. With the independent candidates running, I actually think that hurts the Democrats' vote share. I think it's something like Donald or DeSantis or maybe Gaetz, but I think Gaetz changes things a little bit. But I think DeSantis or Donald's would get around 51, 52% of the vote. The Democrat will probably get somewhere around 37%, and then an independent candidate will get around 3 to 4% of the vote. Maybe it may even be even larger than that. But what happens in the Republican primary is certainly very interesting and something to watch. As for the general election, I think Florida is going to stay safe in the Republican column. Just lastly, to finish with Florida, just showing you at the 2024 map and seeing how Florida has changed. A lot of more red in Florida than we're typically used to seeing. For instance, Miami-Dade County. This is where Miami is, obviously. Trump won it by 11.4% in 2024. Trump, Palm Beach, almost won Palm Beach, Florida, 0.76%. Broward, 17 point for Harris. The Tampa area, Hillsborough County voted for Donald Trump by 3.1%. St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, and Clearwater over here, Trump won it by 5.2%. Just go back to 2020. St. Pete was blue, Tampa was blue, Palm Beach was much more blue, and Miami-Dade was 7.4% blue. Go back to 2016, it was even more blue. St. Pete was red, Tampa was blue, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade were all heavily blue. So Florida has moved a lot to the Republican direction in recent years, including in the large population centers like up in Jacksonville and Duval County, like in the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area, like in the Palm Beach area, this is where Mar-a-Lago is, and the Miami-Dade area. We've also seen surrounding Orange County, this is where the city of Orlando is. We've seen a lot of Republican population growth and election growth there as well. So Florida has moved so much in the big population centers to the Republican direction that no matter what the Republican primary looks like in 2026, Florida is going to be electing another Republican governor with almost 100% certainty. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts and any future video ideas that you have. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in a future video.